would Rick Pitino have if he stayed at Kentucky and never left? He'd be going into his 30.
Never took the Celtics job.
Never. Stayed there 34 years straight. How many titles would Rick Pitino have? That's our Kicking It text line question of the day. 270-903-0389 is going to be open for the whole show because we'll come back and visit that on the back half. And I promise you today, I will leave us time to talk about that. We got a spring sports scoreboard coming up. Spring football starting at UK, U of L, Jeff Brom era starting to get underway there. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're not going to waste any time. Be sure and follow along 1027 The Game, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Download the Owensboro Radio app. You can listen anywhere in the world. But right now, we're going to head to the Green River Area Federal Credit Union hotline. Mouthful, but big thanks to those guys for coming on. Emily Nyman from Breaking Balls Pod is with us. Emily, welcome back.
Hey guys, I'm so happy to be back. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, always. And baseball comes around, we got to get the expert on to talk about it a little bit. And man, no better time than right off the heels of the World Baseball Classic. Emily, I didn't know that I was interested in the World Baseball Classic until I started watching it. I'm a baseball guy, but I mean, this exceeded my expectation. I feel like this created more buzz than the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the same boat as you, that during the pool play, I was still not as sold on it because, let's be honest, the pool play can be a little slow. It's fun at first, but, the talent disparity between the bottom teams and the top teams is pretty large. But then when the bracket-style tournament started, I did a total 180 and was so into it and way more into it than I ever thought. And it's just, at the end of the day, the NCAA, they don't get much right, but they got it right with March Madness. You cannot beat a bracket-style one-and-done tournament. The win now or go home is just so exciting, no matter who's playing, no matter what sport it is. It's just undefeated.
That's what I said. That's what I talked to Vic yesterday on the show about is this one-off baseball scenario. You just don't get it. You're so used to playing baseball in a series, even in the regular season, that you really just don't get this one-and-done situation. And it really just added so much energy and so much intrigue to these games. The pitching matchups a lot different. You had guys coming in and out of the game. It was almost like it was a different game, really.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and you understand why they do the series in MLB, right? Besides the money aspect of trying to draw out the postseason as long as possible, it would be tough to sell a 162-game schedule to fans and to get them to be into it if the entire postseason was just a wild card round, one-game knockout. That would be very painful. But for something like this, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I mean, you don't need to give an owner, you don't have to congratulate an owner and let him have his entire pitching staff and all the money that he spent. It's, you got to pick this guy, and this is who you got to go with. This is the lineup, and just either make it happen or go home sad.
Yeah, we're joined by Emily Nyman from Breaking Balls Pod. You can follow her on the Twitter machine at MSheDoesIt out there on Twitter. You can also follow the podcast at Break Balls Pod. And how do you think MLB can capitalize? I feel like right now baseball, for my money, is as popular at this very moment in time as I think I've ever seen it. I mean, at least since I was a kid. How do you think MLB can play this and capitalize as they roll into opening day?
I think that they just have to. I know that a lot of people have not really cared for the rule changes and what MLB is trying to do, but I think that the owners, they have the luxury of time that they can own the team for as long as they want. So everything that they do, all these initiatives, the World Baseball Classic, the rule changes, it's to try to grow their brand and to try to bring in fans over the course of years. So I think that the World Baseball Classic, and this was the year that it really arrived, right? There's been a bunch of them. I think it started in the early 2000s, but this was the one that it felt like, okay, this tournament is really something to be paid attention to, and it just captured everybody's attention globally. So I think that the rule changes happening this year with trying to create action by just subtracting dead air in the game. I think that MLB for once is trying to really do something to get with the times. Every other pro sport, they make changes over years and as athletes evolve and as people's attention spans evolve, and MLB has done that. So I think that the rule changes plus the World Baseball Classic, people are into the breath of life that's been breathed into the league. And I think that hoping that Shohei Ohtani signs a $500 million contract with a team that can make it to the postseason is can do more for MLB than literally anything that they could possibly do on their own.
That would be the Yankees. But you're listening to Live at 5, Vic Evans, Stephen A. Turner. We got the Green River Area FCU hotline here, Emily Nyman. And Emily, my question is, we heard so much blowback. I had the whole rant I went on a few days ago with Keith Olbermann, but we don't hear the same blowback for the World Cup in soccer. I mean, all these soccer players that go play in the World Cup are being played, they're being paid by Man U and, Liverpool and all these soccer clubs. Why do you think there was so much blowback on the World Baseball Classic that, in my opinion, if you give this thing the way it's growing, could be almost like a soccer World Cup in another couple, turns?
I totally agree with you. I think that it's just a symptom of MLB and baseball is so, it's as American as grandma and apple pie, right? Like, it's been our pastime, and it's just so quintessentially American that I think that MLB has done a job of keeping that, like, insular. So now when they try to go global, it makes a lot of MLB fans uncomfortable with something that they think is not, they don't care about the foreign leagues. They don't care about this because they just picture MLB pilfering talent from all over the world to come play here. So I think that that's the problem, and MLB is just ignoring it because, as you can see, this is what people want. The World Cup is one of the most exciting sporting events in the history of sports on our planet. And it draws in the attention of millions around the globe every few years. So MLB trying to tap into that market, especially with the growth of the sport of baseball, is just, there's nothing else that they could do better than that. And people like Keith Olbermann, they just need something to complain about. And it's tough to complain about the game. There's so many exciting players. There's so many exciting things happening around the league. And just, you have to tune it out because they're going to keep complaining until just no one's willing to listen to them anymore.
Well, Emily, just a quick nugget, because you said exciting in there about 4 or 5 times. My question is, how is John Smoltz the least excited person in the world to be calling the World Baseball Classic? I mean, it was absolutely exciting, but you think John Smoltz is calling a funeral.
The only time he got excited is when Japan laid down a bunt. That's it.
I mean, this guy's, give him some energy, for goodness sakes.
And also Joe Davis, who did the play-by-play with him, who's the Dodgers play-by-play guy, he's great. He's such a fantastic play-by-play. He has some nice anecdotes, and there would be times where Smoltz literally wouldn't even say anything. And it's just like, is he alive? Do they have to, like, tap him on the back of the head to make sure that he's awake? And it's classic, right? MLB, I have so many good things finally to say about them and the things that they're doing in the first time for I don't even know how long. But then they take it like half a step back by having someone like John Smoltz on every single primetime broadcast. And I'm not saying that they should go out and get like a comedian that's trying to shoehorn shtick into every single conversation in the booth. But there's somewhere between a knowing comedian and no personality former player. Like, they exist. They can find them. So I don't know what they're doing. Like, why they have these guys on national broadcast. I can't answer that.
I mean, former Major League player, Hall of Famer that just happens to hate the game of baseball. That's what I don't understand.
I thought it was just because I was a Philly and I just was biased against Smoltz, but now I start to see it come out. It wasn't just me, and I tell you, it was rough.
Yeah, he was putting me to sleep last night. I mean, honestly, the game didn't help with Team USA losing for basically from the bottom of the second inning on, but it was like, okay, can you guys just Smoltz, you have nothing to say. You had a Hall of Fame career that lasted 2 decades. You don't have a single anecdote in you to tell. You didn't prepare anything for this. Like, it's very strange to me. It seems like he, like you said, hates the game, but also doesn't have any experience on the mic, which is not true at all. He's had thousands of hours as a broadcaster. So what's going on?
We see how big this was, and Ohtani and Trey Turner and some of the guys that had monster tournaments. And I know a lot on the TV side, baseball can be very regional. You got the Yes Network, and all of these teams kind of have their own network. But is this the time for Major League Baseball to take these stars and, for the first time in a long time, get not just a national campaign, but a global campaign and really promote your stars a la the way basketball does?
Yeah, I think that time it's been about time. Yes. And I've said this on the show before, and I'll say it as much as I have to, that in order to grow the game, you have to show the game. And the World Baseball Classic proved that. I mean, the Marlins they hosted basically the entire bracket in their park, Lone Depot Park. Last year, I think they saw a total just a hair under 1 million fans came to their entire season. They had 500,000 fans in 15 games.
Well, they saw more offense in that park since Jim Leland coached the Marlins. I mean, I can tell you that right now.
It wasn't even built yet.
That is true. And, MLB, they can't get out of their own way sometimes, because even this year they were going to have the games, Apple TV Plus, they have the Friday night games, or at least, one Friday night game or whatever. It was supposed to be free, and then the day after the World Baseball Classic ends, they announced, just kidding, you have to have a subscription service.
It was the dumbest marketing campaign after this World Baseball Classic ever.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, everyone's into it, now you guys got to pay.
Yes, we're talking to Emily Nyman, Breaking Ball Podcast. I cannot recommend it enough. It's the best baseball podcast out there, as we're on the Green River Area Federal Credit Union Hotline. I've got to ask Emily, because I know you're a big Yankee fan like me. Is Volpe going to be our opening day shortstop? And please tell me yes.
I think so. He got more at-bats or more plate appearances this spring than literally any other player on the roster. I think that, they've been moving Isaiah kind of Falefa around, trying to get him more comfortable and back into a utility role, which I think he'll be fantastic in. I think that they didn't do him any favors by having him be the starting shortstop on a team that's trying to win the championship, but he'll be great as that guy off the bench because he can play a lot of different positions, including catcher. So I think that they are priming both of them for that moment. And I would be, honestly, and this isn't even me being a really hopeful fan before opening day, but I honestly think that it'll happen. I would be shocked if Volpe isn't the starter.
I hope you're right. I've also got to ask, right in the middle of the World Baseball Classic, they had, they came out, they were having this meeting with the Players Association, kind of readdressing some of the rules. Where do you think that's going? I mean, is this one that they may try to pull back a little bit on? They're going to make some changes. I really haven't seen anything today talking about it, and they've been kind of hush-hush about it. Do you see maybe a few changes as we get towards the end of spring training before we get to opening day on these rule changes?